Hello and welcome back to Kaizen with Luca. We are a little bit of ways from home, but I am so happy to report that we have gained two more followers, uh, joining joining on this journey. So super happy to have you all here. So now we are up to eight people, which means that we will be adding two more houses to the uh, the community here. So that is super exciting, which means I will be going and swapping out some materials so that we can build and put these houses in. So I am so excited. This is going to be super fun. The topic for today, though, is small steps bypass the fear. And this essentially means that when you have something that is scaring you, or it could be too big to handle, really anything that drives that idea of like, wow, this really goes above me, and it's scary. So this is kind of that idea um, that we'll be talking about today. So let's begin with where this comes from, and I'm probably going to butcher this name, and I hope I don't. But this idea comes from Robert Maurer, and this is actually the neuroscience that is under the Kaizen philosophy. So everything that we have talked about and how to achieve like your goals, your dreams, kind of all these different ideas, you've kind of already been practicing this idea that we're talking about today. This concept of small steps to bypass fear. So this is why this like daily 15-minute habit, it's modest, but this is it's not exactly precise. And we're actually doing the exact concept of showing up and doing something for roughly 20 minutes a day through this. This is not that I have fear of making videos, but it's this same exact idea in practice. So I've actually been going through my own Kaizen sprint, like I've mentioned before. I'll be on day 12, I believe. So that will be super exciting. And I wanted to infuse some of the concepts that I have been talking about in my own Kaizen sprint and infuse that into the ideas that we have here for the video aspect. And I had a goal when I was doing the Kaizen challenge of just like reading more. I was never really a reader, and I went from doing 0 books ever, like in a year, to reading about 4 books in 2 months. I was just kind of flying through, and I was doing that to help at night because I was trying to get better sleep scores and get better, more restful sleep. And I read that reading is a great wind down routine to do. So that's kind of what I did. I ended up taking up some fun reading activities for my wind down during bed, like getting ready for bed. And it didn't happen because I committed to reading a library or anything. It happened because I picked up one book and then just kind of the next thing. Like I didn't really have a major goal in mind. I just knew that I wanted to read. I didn't set a goal for how many books I wanted to read. It was just I'm reading. I'm reading for pleasure. Like I have plenty of books that I start and I don't finish because I often think too hard, and it kind of sucks a little bit of the joy in reading out. I did audiobooks for a while, which I did enjoy. I enjoyed reading audiobooks a lot. And the, well, I guess you didn't really read them, you just kind of listened to audiobooks. But statement stands, like, they were good for me. I got a lot done, and I drive a lot, so that was great at the time. But now, with how schedules are, I don't use audiobooks anymore. Um, but these were just small steps, just picking up and reading about a chapter a night, and I would just read, just just go, and by the time that I was through, um, a few like by the time I was like reading all these books and stuff and all that, I was like, wow, I kind of flew through these. This is crazy, and I felt really accomplished. Um, so that was extremely enjoyable, and now, I've gotten a few books that I want to read and wrapping up a couple other ones. So it's really helped get on that habit of trying to read and taking that mindful step every day at night to say, hey, like, let's slow down and just read a couple pages from the book. Um, so, what does small steps in bypassing fear actually mean? So, the brain treats large ambitions like threats. And when you decide to go change everything at once, which is kaikaku, we've talked about this in the beginning, if you recall, kaikaku, and sorry, back to that. But this is exactly what we're talking about. When you want to go to the gym and you just immediately sudden change, rather than going and doing 10 minutes of walking per day, which is a lot easier, you decide, I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week for an hour, and that's going to be way harder to maintain than just going on a daily walk, every day for 10 minutes to just be out in nature. um, but back to the idea. When you decide to change everything at once, this could be new diet, new schedule, new habits, new mindset. The amygdala. Now, if you don't know what the the amygdala is a pair of almond-shaped subcortical nuclei located deep within the temporal lobes, which acts as the brain's emotional processing hub, specifically for fear, stress, and reward. So the amygdala will read that as danger and shut down access to creativity and rational thinking right when you need to actually do those things. And this is probably why you feel when you are suddenly pressured, right? And let's say you're in a meeting or an interview or something, you immediately feel pressured, and all those thoughts that you had immediately escape your brain. This is exactly what that is talking about. So small steps will fly under the radar. And it's not because they are easier, but it's because they are neurologically sound. And the daily practice is not the consolation version of big change. It's actually how big change works. Big change doesn't happen all at once. It happens over time. You make small changes, you're eventually going to get big change. I didn't lose 20 pounds overnight. I lost 20 pounds because I made small changes every day. I worked I worked out. I went ahead and did some walking. I did some diet changes. And if you just did that, you don't even have to be 100% perfect. And this is something that Arnold says in his newsletters, and there's a book out there that I read as well. You don't have to be perfect 100% of the time. You only have to be perfect about 60 to 80% of the time. If you think that you always have to be perfect, then you're setting yourself up for failure because you're not giving yourself enough wiggle room for when things get hard. So only 60 to 80%. Even if you can say, half the time. But you really want to be over half to make it stick and make it worth it for yourself, because if you give yourself the 50-50, you might find yourself, starting to slack a little bit, and you want to at least give yourself a little bit of a challenge to overcome, whatever hurdles you want to overcome. So with that said, you can apply these things to anything. If you were just 60 to 70% or 60 to 80% on top of whatever, or doing whatever you say you're going to do, that is leagues better than intermittently doing it. So if I say I'm going to read, if we have 7 days in the week, and I say I'm going to read 5 out of the 7 days, that's better than me picking up a book on a random day and saying, I'm going to read 5 chapters. Hopefully this all makes sense, but another story, as I just look at some of these personal notes to help build this out a little bit. In high school, we were given something called a capstone, and those of you that watch that have gone to the same high school as me would know this because you've also probably had to go through it. We had to go through a capstone project, and the capstone project in anything, like in college, because I went to a school that was very focused on prepping you for college, and so we had a capstone. We were given a task to pretty much take anything, any idea we wanted, and go and solve that problem using the engineering method. So all throughout high school, I was, pretty average kid. I'm still an average kid now. Even as I went through college, I was never anything to write home about. But we decided, we went through a bunch of different ideas. And honestly, this was probably the most fun I had. Trying to figure out what are these problems, identifying problems. We did a ton of research, and it was a group of us, like a group of 4 that then eventually went down to just a group of 2. But this is honestly, it's the highlight of my high school career, because this was the one thing that I felt like I walked away with where I actually did something. And we did this thing called Bartholomew's Vest. Now, no intention of actually having this thing go anywhere, right? We just wanted to... I just was like, we just need to do something cool. And we didn't have any big plans, but we took... that one small step, right? That one curious step of how can we solve this problem? And the problem we were trying to solve is, I'll say this in the most scientific way possible, just in case YouTube doesn't like it, but we were trying to figure out how to distribute the energy of a fast-moving object through air. if you get what I'm saying. Um, because we noticed that even when you're wearing a vest, you still end up with internal uh, injuries and bruising and breaking bones and all that kind of stuff. So we wanted to figure out how can we actually go and solve that problem. So we did to an extent. Um, we took, if you know what Bartholomew is, you might recognize that from the Dr. Seuss story, Bartholomew and the Oobleck. Now, I'll give you a little bit of some sciencey uh, phrases here, but Oobleck, not only is it a fun word, but it's also something called a non-Newtonian fluid. And a non-Newtonian fluid is a fluid that when you just put your hand in it, it'll kind of just sink in there. But when you hit it with force, so if you like punch it or tap it or kind of do anything along those lines, it will harden. And the reason it hardens is due to the oversaturation of cornstarch. So you can kind of take anything that over time, like if you put too much of it in a solution, and a solution being just kind of water, and there's residual, right? Because if you mix cornstarch in with something too much, then you'll kind of see it gets a little sludgy at the bottom. It doesn't fully mix in. It's because the water can no longer hold all of the cornstarch molecules, which is why you end up you kind of have that resistance when you punch it, right? So we wanted to test this out, and we were like, okay, what if we took Oobleck, and what if we put it into a sack? We took some shower liner from Home Depot, and we sealed it off, and we took that through behind a vest, and we went over and put it in harm's way, sort of. We put it down the line, and we actually tested this. We used clay to put that behind the vest, and we did our control, right? We took a vest that did, or we took the vest normally, and had it be tested without the Oobleck there. And we actually tested different Oobleck solutions, and we wanted to find out what made the strongest Oobleck. Turns out standard Oobleck is fine. We ended up putting I think we tried like oil. We tried a bunch of different combinations. I used to have a document that outlined everything we did in case we wanted to patent the idea. But we tested out all these different things and ended up just using regular Oobleck. From there, we went ahead and recorded the observations and found that the Oobleck actually did something. It actually prevented, or it actually distributed the energy of the projectile effectively. My goodness, why is there water literally everywhere? So the idea worked. It worked so well that when we presented it, we ended up getting an invitation to the town's science fair, which was not our intention, by the way. The intention was just to do something that we cared about, and that we thought could make an impact, and that it was cool. And we ended up actually going to a science fair, which I never thought I would do at all, because I didn't really have the brains in science or math to go to a science fair, and I ended up going there. We placed third in the local town science fair and got invited to the state science fair. Again, no intention of doing any of these things. They all just ended up happening because we took an idea that we liked and thought we would be able to do, and ended up having a really cool idea and a project worth talking about. So we went to state science fairs. They had a couple of issues because of the methods and some of the sensitive topics. So I think we got. I don't even think we got an honorary mention. They kind of, although the judges that walked around really liked the idea. I guess the optics of it were really just not there. So in hindsight, I wish we were recognized for the hard work, but that alone was a huge win for me. I talk about that project a ton, because it just shows that when you have an idea and you run with it, great things can happen. And they can lead you down so many different roads. And that's kind of the huge takeaway there. And yeah, I mean, we just kind of took that and ran with it. After that, after the state science fair, which was a great opportunity, we ended up getting invited out to a smaller. I don't want to call it smaller. I guess I don't know if it was smaller, but it wasn't state science fair. It was a STEM fair, and we got invited to go participate in that. And no mentions there either. I think they had a similar issue, but wanted to at least give us the invite, which I thought was nice regardless. So really, really great to just get out there, and that project alone, presentation skills, learning how to convey difficult to understand or complex topics. I learned a ton out of that project, and it was so valuable. So I mean, that's what is worth taking away is, you although the big picture of that capstone project sounded and probably felt daunting, at the end of the day, when you break it down into, well, okay, here's what we have to do. We have to go contact this person. This is what we have to figure out first. You break it down to these smaller steps that make it easily digestible for you later on, so that when you are ready to go tackle it, you no longer have that fear. And then when new opportunities rise up, you've done this project for so long that you know it inside and out, that you can talk about it with anybody. It doesn't matter who it is. So that's the ultimate takeaway. So how can you apply this today? And I'll wrap it up with this, because we are running. I yapped a ton, but this is what happens when I start incorporating some personal stuff into this. Here's a major takeaway, or how you can apply this today. Name one thing you've been trying to change with a big effort that keeps failing, and then break it down into its smallest possible version. Now, this is not a smaller goal, but this is the smallest daily action that points you in the right direction. And do that thing tomorrow. Just that. And see how you feel. And this channel serves as that. This is that small daily thing that I come here and do. And you may notice that this week I have not been perfect, and that's okay. But I keep showing up, and as long as I keep showing up, I know that I will continue to be successful in what I want to do, and that it will pay over time. So that's what I'll leave you all with today, and I will see you all tomorrow, and hope you have a great day.